Hey, it's Brett, and this is Brett and Some Books. Today we are continuing the plot to seize the White House by Jules Archer. This is chapter 21 of part 2. Demands flooded in now for Butler's services as a lecturer. He had embarrassed governments, large and small, including his own, by his relentless candor, but his courage and honesty had won the admiration of millions of Americans. His speeches became more vitriolic than ever, scorching the hides of the powerful and the highly placed. He met eager requests for articles by magazines and newspaper syndicates with the help of his friend E.Z. Dimitman, who was now night city editor of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Dimitman would flesh out his views on war and peace, which Butler then edited and revised to his own satisfaction. There never seemed to be enough money. Although he received some lecture fees up to $500, the average fee came to $250, and in many cases turned out to be far less. Most of what he managed to earn went into putting Tom Dick through Swarthmore, and Smedley Jr. through California Tech and MIT, and paying off the house he and Ethel had bought in Newtown Square, Pennsylvania. It was an old square farmhouse that had been gutted by fire except for its walls. Butler had rebuilt it with glass-enclosed porches and a huge, high hallway in which he erected his two treasured Chinese blessing umbrellas, open like canopies at each end of the hall. He had thought to remodel the house for $35,000, but it had turned out to cost far more, and he was forced to sell most of the land to pay off the mortgage. As a civilian, Butler was close-fisted with money, and gently but firmly resisting the endless letters he received begging for handouts, because he had no money to spare. His thrifty wife kept an old, ragged, shabby fur coat in the closet, over 30 years after he had bought it home for her from the Boxer Rebellion. She never wore it, but she could not bring herself to throw it away. He himself upset many military organizations by canceling his membership and journal subscriptions without offering any explanation. He was too proud to admit the real reason. He simply had to prune expenses. Out of uniform, he took pride in his appearance and dressed well but conservatively. Unable to break the traditions of 33 years of dress parade, he polished his shoes daily and buffed the buttons on his white, custom-made summer suits. His thought patterns, too, continued to dwell primarily on military concerns. One of his objectives was to stir up a demand that the Marine Corps be removed from under the thumb of a politically appointed desk admirals of the Navy and set up as a separate branch of the armed forces under their own leaders. He gave his reasons in an article called "To Hell with the Admirals: Why I Retired at 50. Which appeared in Liberty magazine on December 5, 1931. The clique of desk admirals who seem to hold sway in the Navy Department in Washington demand an Annapolis man as head of Marine Corps. They desire to have the Corps as an insignificant part of the naval service, a unit directly under their collective thumb. It dismays and appalls them to learn of the heroic deeds of Marines on foreign duty. They feel it detracts from the prestige of the Navy. The group of admirals did everything possible to keep me from being named commandant, and now these officers of the Marine Corps, who have been particularly loyal and friendly to me, are being transferred all about the country and abroad. As I go, I am tempted to say that shipless clique. To hell with the admirals." Oh, that shipless cliche. Outraged, Admiral Pratt issued a statement denouncing his broadside. On the tablet that had been erected in his honor in the Navy building was removed, later located and rescued by a Butler Memorial Commission. It was installed in lost control of my thought there. It was installed in Philadelphia City Hall after his death. Okay, another article Butler wrote for Liberty stirred the wrath of the Honduras government by exposing the collaboration of Honduran and other Central American dictators with American banking and commercial interests. The controlled Honduran press accused him of misrepresenting the situation and showered him with epithets. From Tegucigalpa, a New York Times correspondent wired, "It is realized that he is now retired and not subject to restraint which can be imposed on an officer in active service." More and more of Butler's attention was directed to the steadily worsening depression and what it was doing to the country. He was outraged when hunger marchers who had gone to Washington on December 7th were denied admission to the White House to petition for jobs. During 1932, stocks fell 90%, farm products 60%, industrial production 50%. By the end of the year, 15 million Americans were in the ranks of the unemployed. Homeowners and farmers were being dispossessed for non-payment of taxes and debts. Outraged neighbors in many communities were setting up roadblocks with guns to bar outside bidders at foreclosure auctions so that the property could be bought for a song and returned to its owners. Alarmed bankers saw this development as a communist threat. Butler's antagonism toward big business intensified. On February 14, 1932, the United Press quoted him as saying, "I've about come to the conclusion that some American corporations abroad are, in a measure, responsible for trouble with the natives simply because of the way they treat them. I've seen hundreds of boys from the cities and farms of the United States die in Central American countries just to protect the investments of our large corporations." How could Washington criticize Japan for its takeover in Manchuria, he demanded, when we ourselves had been just as imperialistic? In the spring, Pennsylvania Governor Gifford Pinchot urged Butler to throw his hat into the political ring and oppose James J. Davis, a former Secretary of Labor under Hoover, for the Republican nomination for senator. His admirers were already demanding that Butler run for governor. "I'm not going to run for the state or governorship," he growled to newspaper friends, "and then have the politicians laugh at me." But Pinchot's entreaties were too strong and persistent, and Butler reluctantly agreed. Stumping the state, he appealed to Republican voters with a platform promising jobs for the unemployed and home property loans for debtors. Campaigning for a bonus bill, he placed all his decorations and uniforms in a vault, publicly vowing never to wear them again until soldiers got their bonus. Although he was personally popular, two issues he campaigned for in 1932, prohibition and the soldier's bonus, were not. Despite receiving 500,000 votes, he was defeated. Paul Comley French of the Philadelphia Record revealed that Governor Pinchot had set Butler up for defeat to eliminate him as a political threat, making a secret deal to support Davis. The Pinchot political machine had been used against Butler in key election districts. Reporter Jesse Leventhal, later city editor of the Philadelphia Record, had been Butler's press secretary during the campaign, told the author, "Butler's sponsors failed him, trading off votes for Davis in return for electing certain state senators to give the governor control of that body. So Smedley Butler never went to Congress like his father."